Okay, so we're here with Federica Frediani, project leader of the Middle East MEM Summer Summit from Università della Svizzera Italiana, and Paula Oana Benea, project development officer at IOM, the International Organization for Migration. And the dialogue will focus on food systems and migration. So the first question is, for me, a bit of a key question, but also to frame the scene. Can you explain to us a little bit about the link between food security and migration, and how food insecurity can be both a cause and a consequence of migration?
This is on? Good. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm very happy to be here and to be part of this very interesting exchange, which is so much different from the Geneva discussions with our member states. The link between migration, food security, or food insecurity. I mean, we know that people migrate for food or for better livelihood opportunities. Recently, we are seeing that there are more and more movement, especially forced displacement because of lack of food, because of food insecurity. Created by slow or sudden onset of climate change or environmental degradation. So people are moving as an adaptation to these changes, or are moving to find solutions to respond to these challenges. So right now, IOM has been working lately with relevant partners to understand better the link between migration, environmental climate change, and food security and insecurity. It's still a recently new area of work, also because data is very hard to be collected. Climate migrants are very much invisible. We don't have data on people who are moving because of climate change changes. We know that right now we have around 30.7 million internal displacements worldwide triggered by disasters. And we know that youth is a big part of this group of displaced people. We don't have data on this, but we know that, we believe that youth is likely among these people. What should I tell you more about this? Probably I stop now to one out that I have set the context on the link, and then we continue on other areas. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
So, thank you, Paula. So, at the MEM Summer Summit and also in the project Bites of Transformation and Snack the System, we underline the link between food security and movements, also because we would like to give a positive connotation to the idea of migration as well, because we would like also not to think about migrations as a big issue or flows of people invading the European countries. So for us, it's also important to explore a little bit more about climate, what is the climate change, what are the challenges of the actual situation, in particular in the Middle East Mediterranean region, that is a crucial area for migration, for climate change, and for food insecurity / food security. It's also important, as Paula did before, to underline that we can both speak about food security or food insecurity. It depends on the approach on the subject, and even before, during the previous conversations, we discussed a little bit about the multi-sectorial and multidisciplinary approach of such a complex topic. So it's a kind of invitation to think all the aspects involved in this topic, but also to think about migrations in a positive way. So it's an invitation because a lot of young people are involved in these migration flows, and we need these young people also here in Europe. So then we can elaborate a little bit together about this.
Thank you so much. You set the scene perfectly, and I want to shed some light on this positive contribution of migration, especially with the climate-induced displacement and climate migration that is already a reality, but is set to increase exponentially in the coming years. Certain figures say 1 billion environmental migrants in the next 30 years. So how can we improve the narrative and the discourse around migration, highlighting the positive contributions and not just as they do, like the problem of migration?
So while we give visibility to this group of people and to their specific vulnerabilities, we need to acknowledge their potential for promoting solutions to climate change, environmental degradation. And one way to do this is by empowering them, building their capacity, putting them at the center of our planning of policies and programs. IOM, for example, at the level of IOM Rome in the Mediterranean, worked to support youth skills development in several areas of work, as part of a circular migration program between countries in the South Mediterranean and Italy. Some of the participants to this program called Youth Mediterranean are here, and probably they might want to share some insights later on. So this is one of the projects that we promote to empower youth as agents of change, both especially in the countries of origin, because the idea is to support them develop skills and acquire skills abroad to then promote solutions in their home countries. As part of a EU IOM project on reintegrating returned migrants in West Africa, for example, IOM worked to provide capacity building and including financial support, technical advice to young returnees who are interested in developing or creating startups in the sector of agri-food. This is an area, and the area of agroecology is more and more something that we invest in through the development of skills of youth, and these people return home after many years abroad and put at the use of community development their skills. So with our support and the support of our partners, they managed to implement solutions for climate mitigation, and this project is also a way to build the resilience of these actors. Over.
Yeah, and we spoke about resilience of these migrants, that they could be a model for other citizens around the Mediterranean area. I'm speaking about the Mediterranean area because I know better than other areas, and as I mentioned before, is one of the most concerned areas of migration flows. But I think that we have again to change a little bit the narratives about this and think about this resilience, let's say adaptive leadership as well, that they could be role model for other situations. Also, we have to becoming more and more aware by the fact that the climate change is affecting all the citizens around the world. So we have to start thinking concretely about positive solution, also to integrate this expertise, capacities from the migrant migrational situations, I think. And also I would like to mention, and then we can also give the floor to someone among the participants here, that again, we think about refugees or migrants as people living in provisional situations, and for instance, thinking about refugee camps, we think that they are temporary solutions. In reality, they are not temporary solutions, because if we think about refugee camps in Jordan, for instance, I will ask the help and the support of Yad in speaking about refugee camps. You know, we are speaking about Syrian refugees being there for 11 years. So we cannot really say that these are temporary solutions. So we have to find new approaches to give the opportunities to these people to put in place their own capacities and expertise. And we were mentioning in particular young people and kids that are often invisible. So we have also to find the solutions for this specific portion of population in this situation. Do you like to intervene, Yad, a little bit about the refugee camps?
Thank you. What I would like to say is it's really alarming again now, the situation. If we put the line between refugee and migrants, you will find that most of migrants is become of refugee status. They come to country, then they want to try to leave this country to migrate to another country. It's been, I'm going to talk about like the Syrian example. Now the funding is reduced. The situation for them is really bad. Now all the coverage on Ukraine, Russia war. We will see another cycle of wave of migrants back to Europe now because the situation is really bad. I'm talking from the ground because I see how the high percentage of the people there, they're trying to leave. Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Sudan, Iraq, Yemen. The whole situation is back again to the first point where we started 10 years ago when the Arab Spring started. So that's what I wanted to really reflect on the point that we have to go back to the point zero to look for the reason why the migration is become a big issue in the Mediterranean, Middle Eastern area.
So food insecurity in this specific region was there before the outbreak of the Russia and Ukraine conflict. So we have also to think about this.
Thank you so much. There's a lot of food for thought. Maybe picking up on what you said now, how can we move from short-term emergency responses to more long-term emergency responses or sustainable development in these contexts?
By preparing to potential risks, prevention, and by probably involving, bringing the voices of the frontliners in these various crises, bringing those voices in the policy debates. So the same way these policy recommendations today were adopted through a big push from youth. We've managed so far quite well, including in the context of Global Compact for Migration, to have youth as our ally in changing the mind and the narratives in the government's discussions, in influencing the policy making by bringing their testimonies. This is something IOM has been doing for a while, including in our forum, main forum, Global Forum on Migration, with our member states and partners. Youth are our constant contributors, be it as migrant youth voices or as experts. Youth are more and more experts on various areas. So when we discuss migration, we cannot not look at food security, at health issues, at trade challenges, at digital issues. So youth are more and more our experts, those who are actually provided their input to the decision makers, who are missing this who are missing sometimes the important perspective of those involved directly. In October, this month, at the end of the month, IOM will be organizing a discussion on its member states' dialogue on overlapping crises, looking at the migration and the climate change nexus with food security, insecurity, and the impact on displacement. And we will have a panel on youth empowerment and empowering the role of youth as active promoters of solutions to climate change crisis, and including responses to food insecurity. We know that, for example, if you look at the African continent, the youngest continent, with the biggest number of young people, and much of their livelihood is connected to the agriculture, to natural resources. These people have to be empowered to promote solutions, adaptive solutions to environment degradation, to land degradation, to land desertification, to lack of access. We in IOM Rome are monitoring the arrivals from the Mediterranean to Europe, and while we don't speak about a crisis, we don't have a crisis of arrivals. We have to always calm alarmists. But we see more and more, and we hear more and more testimonies of young people leaving their countries because of lack of access to water.
I think as we're talking about youth participation and youth empowerment, I would love to give the floor to two participants in the IOM YMED project.
Hello everyone, I'm Dunya Badi. I'm one of the Youth Mediterranean program provided by IOM participants. I came to Italy during June. Actually, I'm from Libya. And this program promotes the enhancement of skills as part of promoting circular migration and promoting the skill enhancement. So, for example, for me, now I'm working for the first time on road safety engineering with the Fred engineering company. And for example, I can, let's say in the future, I can bring those kind of skills that I've gained during this internship when I go back to my country. This is like the positive impact of circular migration that I really encourage more organizations to work on, because it's really amazing and life-changing for youth to try and to experience in a very young age. I also want to add more about climate change, and especially I will talk about Libya as I'm shaking. I worked with, in the past I worked with the Danish Refugee Council, so I've been monitoring internally displaced persons, Libyan people who were affected by the war, and also migrants who migrated to Libya since 40 years ago. It's not like just 10 years ago, and I really witnessed how many single mothers face not just climate change, but also face the lack of migration opportunities like the males, because single mothers are left with their kids, and which leave less opportunities for them to find a way to go to Europe, let's say, or something like that. So yeah, this is really affects them, and they face a lot of scarcity of water, because Libya is one of the African countries that's rich, but they face a lot of challenging opportunities to get their domestical needs of water, to shower, and to drink water. Like, they have to fetch to take water, like from very far areas with their kids, and like it's so devastating. Yeah, and I'm so pleased to be here. Like, it's a really pleasure to to see the snack system's contribution, and I really hope this contribution also come in my country one day. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing your story and for the great contributions. Is anyone else from the audience wanting to share some?
Hello everyone, my name is Noor, I'm from Syria. I would like to talk about my experience a little bit. I worked in UN, with UN in Lebanon. 5 years ago, I worked with the refugees, especially with the Syrian refugees and what's happening there. So I participated to support them, especially the new generation, the youth generation who are facing a lot of issues, for example, lack of funding, without education. So I just would like to say it's important to say about different cases. The first one, integration programs, it's required in Europe. The first one, for example, the cases which are facing the Syrian refugees in Denmark, for instance, they are facing now a big issue of return them to Syria, whether to Syria or to send them to Africa, this will increase their issues. This is they put them under a new traumas since they are building their lives, but now they are facing, they will not able to study, they are not able to work, they are without any health insurance. So what about those people? If you accept them, at least you want them to continue, not to put them under a new risks and under new traumas. And I would like to mention and insist about funding, because Syrian refugees are facing a really terrible crisis of not finding, without any programs. They are just neglected from what's happening since. Especially since 6 years, especially now with the issue and political issues, the social and everything, and economical crisis, what's happening in Syria, and now they are facing a new stage of a crisis, same as what's happening in Lebanon. So I would like to say those people are facing multiple issues. They are without any support. We don't need to forget what's happening. I understand there are a lot of issues in all over the world, but we need to find a balance. Other people need and require to support them, since the situation, it is since now 12 years without any solution. We are finding just superficial solutions, but what about the radical ones? How to find solution for those people, especially the cases what's happening in Syria. It is not civil war, it is completely proxy war, and a lot of states involved in the conflict. So it is the price if other states want to be in the country and involved in the country and send military groups, weapons, extremist groups to Syria, and states to get benefits of that. Okay, but why only Syrians want to pay all the price? It is not completely civil war, it is a proxy war. The whole world, a lot of states involved in the conflict in Syria, and it is not just political issue, it's a humanitarian, economical, and it's a reflection of the social what's happening in Syria. So I just would like to say we need to find balance. We need to focus about two different issues, what's happening in Denmark, for example, and now in Britain. It is really make me sad, because now the people, the new generation, after studied 5 years, for example, in Denmark, they are now not able to study. They are just in the campus, and they are completely isolated.
So thank you for your intervention. I think that Syria, unfortunately, is not the only case where we have a lot of external powers acting, in different ways and contributing to a conflict or unstable circumstances, and our friend here, she's from Libya, and Libya is another case of not really like just an internal conflict, but there are a lot of interests at stake. So I would like to suggest also to think about the complexity of these conflicts. And we mentioned before that there is something that it's called, I don't know if it's the right translation into English, but the dictatorship of emergencies. So we feel always the need to intervene with short-term solutions, also because it's a little bit difficult to find a mid-term solution and a long-term solution. So what we do, I would like to bring back to a positive side of our projects here, is also to focus a little bit on positive strategies, positive approaches in order to change a little bit the culture, the mindsets of policymakers, young people, old people, because even this morning we mentioned that we are focusing on a lot of youth, that is the future of our own countries, but we have also to work together, let's say, coming from a different generation. I am teaching at the university. I have to say that we have to be able to create bridges, dialogue between different players. Otherwise, we are not going to solve complex issues like the ones that we were mentioning before. So, I don't know, I really believe that Bites of Transformation, the project, is one of these, let's say, good practice, and it's important to have new approaches on old problems, because conflicts are also all the problems that in the Middle East, Mediterranean region have been there for ages, for centuries, and I don't know, I want also to mention that due to the new geopolitical configuration, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it's not on the spot anymore. So it's a little bit put aside, but it's not solved. So we have different problematic situations in the region, and we have to keep in mind this. But also, I really would like to invite people to see a little bit more what unifies us, instead of focusing all the time on what divides us. It's what we try to do with the project on food systems, and also at the MEM Summer Summit as well. But I believe that food, and this is mentioned also in the manifesto, is also matter to see. Food is an element of unification, let's say, or socialization, and tool for a better understanding among different cultures and among different nationalities, if it means something, this idea of having a specific nationality.
Thank you so much to both. I see Tim from the Swiss mission has a question.
Thank you very much, and following up on your very interesting discussion, there's maybe one concrete aspect of the policy recommendations that were approved this morning, endorsed this morning, where I would like to have your view, because one of the topics that was discussed is the integration of young ones into markets, and it's not only formal markets but also informal markets. And I can imagine that you have quite some perspectives and experiences on how this could be put in place, because now the policy recommendations should be put in place, and among them is integration of young people into also informal markets. What would be your reflections on this? Thank you.
Good. So integration of USI-MEM is one example of support, empowerment, youth empowerment for integration in the local labor market. I know that we have a big informal labor market. We also try to promote ways to integrate and provide solutions for young people to integrate into the informal labor markets. And we use a lot diaspora as ambassadors and as actors of empowerment and supporters for this kind of approaches to integration. The same way we hope that that youth that are now supported and empowered will then become those who will create the solution providers and the bridges between the various shores of the Mediterranean, the northern and southern shore. So this is our hope. I mean, we have very much hope, and we learn a lot from our young collaborators. And what I could see in the policy recommendations that were adopted today and that you shared with us, Tim, is this need to continue providing a voice to youth. I mean, providing them the means to continue being advocates for the solutions, not only by providing them a voice or them having a voice, but also by being allowed to sit at the table, you know, as experts. Many of them have expertise that is necessary, you know. I mean, one important example of this labor migration, skills mobility schemes that we promote is also responding to the gaps of skills in the Italian market, for example. And these young people not only have an opportunity to acquire new skills, but also to provide skills that are not available on the market. This is a feedback that we've had from the first edition of the USI-MED enterprise. Have told us it's great that we can have the skills that we cannot find on the market, and it's great that these people can then act as bridges and as bridges between a potential collaboration between the Italian and the Tunisian enterprises. So yeah, a lot. We believe a lot on the role of youth, and we believe a lot on this, let's say, being a carrier of their voice, but also a convener. It's very important that we are conveners of the young voices. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who would like to share a contribution or ask a question? Then I think if you want to add one last thing, I think otherwise we're done.
No, I think that for replying to the question by Tim, I believe that we have to fight, let's say, this informal market in creating more, opportunities and more projects like what, projects like the Bites of Transformation, give space and room to the young people to contribute, to envision change, to create a new environment of working. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Noram Fouda from Egypt. Since we all agree on the empowerment and the role of youth in the countries, before I was working on UN projects in Egypt and empowering youth and empowering girls. But then I think now most of these activities stopped during the conflicts going on in the world. I'm so glad with the countries that took the initiative to bring more youth to the decision-making table, like Finland and so on. So what I can recommend is to direct more funds to empowering youth, especially in the countries of conflicts like Syria and Libya and so on. Youth there have many capabilities that we can use to empower the whole world. So we should direct more funds towards this. We should try to make more programs for bringing people from the MENA region and so on to have valuable activities and industries. Like one of the activities here is teaching people how to make beekeeping or making honey. I really believe in this. So we should direct more funds towards this idea.
Thank you so much. Any further contributions? Okay. Thank you so much, Paula and Federica, for joining us today and for the great conversation. And we can have another tour of the exhibition and taste a little insects and different kinds of food for the new arrivals. Thank you so much.
Thank you.